Howdy, I am Jace and I'm a sex addict. Every week I come on and answer questions people have with regard to my life as an addict or a person in recovery or somebody just trying to figure out what it means to be sexually and romantically or relationally happy and healthy and just kind of all around a higher level of well-being. That's the journey I've been on for a little over 3 years now. I just had my 3-year anniversary on June 5th of being in recovery, so hooray! That's a cool day for me because it is the first time I really made a choice. In addiction, I thought I had all of these choices and I was in control and I was making all of these choices, but in actuality, there's very little control, if any, in addiction, except for the addiction itself, which is all-encompassing and all-controlling. And my life was, it was pretty unmanageable to the point where I was ready to end it. And I decided to check out this recovery thing instead. And here I am 3 years later, pretty much joyous every single day and loving life and myself and everyone in it and every experience I've had, pleasant or unpleasant. I'm happy to be here. And yeah, it's cool. It's a cool time of year for me. But the question that came in was really good, especially for this time of year, because it's relating to the beginning of my recovery. And the question was, have I ever relapsed since being in recovery? Yes, I have relapsed. I was talking to somebody about like, oh, it's my recovery anniversary. And they were like, awesome. Is it also your sobriety date? I was like, oh, wouldn't that have been great? No, it's not. So I joined recovery June 5th and I got almost a month of sobriety in that time. And then someone from my past, someone who I used to consider my kryptonite, hit me up out of nowhere, someone that I had always wanted to be with, but he was dating someone or I was dating someone or it never worked out or whatever. And yeah, he hit me up out of the blue. We were both single and available and made plans to get together. And I had this idea that I'm like, okay, I just need this one more time out, and then I'll be ready to recover. I'm like, it's actually good for my recovery if I go out and act out again, because, it'll be this last time, I'll get it out of my system. Then I'll really be able to throw myself into recovery. So for the sake of my recovery, I ended my sobriety. Only I didn't end my sobriety with that person because it was the night we were supposed to meet up, and I cleaned the house, I got all groomed, and all of the things that used to go into my whole process of becoming prepared. It was a whole day-long ridiculous thing on the preparations and getting psyched up and everything. And so he was supposed to contact me after work or something like that. And I heard nothing. I think after an hour or so, I sent a text, no response. I think I sent one other one. And then I stayed up all night just in case he was going to contact me. Because why wouldn't I meet up with someone in the middle of the night after they completely blew me off with no explanation? That seems normal and full of self-respect. Either way, he never contacted me. I was super embarrassed and just felt so shitty about myself. And it's a really great thing in the head of an addict when you feel bad about yourself? To go out and act out. And so my one last time turned into 8 months of really dangerous, really scary acting out that I wasn't right back where I had left off. I had progressed, and it had to be more dangerous. It had to be more, risque and all these things. And I tried to be sober again. And then I'm like, okay, I have all these rules. Like I set up all of these like weird rules. And it's like, if I stay within these things, then I'm still sober. And it was just BS. It was just BS because I didn't want to give up my behavior. And I wanted to find any and every loophole that I could into, having my cake and eating it too. And I wasn't convinced yet that I was powerless over addiction. And it wasn't until I broke all of my weird, obscure rules and put myself in life-threatening danger while completely sober from alcohol and everything. And I wasn't even feeling bad about myself. It literally was just, I couldn't stop. Like I couldn't say no. Didn't even really want to be involved in the situation. And it was almost like someone else was controlling what was going on. And I just, agreed and allowed it to happen. And after that, when I'm like, I've broken every single one of my own rules, I'm putting myself in life-threatening situations with no excuse at all. I can't even say like, oh, I was drunk, I was blacked out, which has happened plenty of times as well. I had to face the fact that I was powerless over addiction and that sex addiction was a real thing, and it mirrored, issues that exactly the same stuff that friends of mine were dealing with drugs or alcohol or other things. And I had to really look myself in the mirror and call bullshit. And so, yeah, that was about 8 months after I started recovery, and that marked my sobriety date, which is February 2nd of 2015. So did I relapse? Totally. Was my one last time worth it? It sure wasn't. And of course, I know countless stories of one last times ending in disease, ending in pregnancy, ending in bodily harm, and all sorts of things. So that one last time and took me to places that I would not go again, and I would not wish for anyone to go. Some pretty unfortunate stuff that happened in a really fast time. That was the other thing that made me realize it, that things got out of hand so fast. And all of a sudden it was like, whoa, what am I doing? Where did this come from? It became really real. Someone else I know in recovery says, I needed to go out and do more field research into my addiction. And I reckon he was right. So yes, I've totally relapsed. I hope I never do again. My life sober and sane and serene is just more amazing than every phenomenal sexual experience I've ever had all wrapped into one. I would take my worst day sober than my best day as an active addict 1,000,000 times. Every single day I would choose that. So cool. That was a really good question. That was really good for me to think about, especially as I'm coming up or just passing my recovery anniversary. So thank you very much for that. Please send in your questions. You can do through my website, suddenlycelibate.com. I try to get to them as quickly as possible. And until next time, stay curious.